Hello everyone, this is Kobe Fletcher, Superintendent of Escanaba Area Public Schools, and I'd like to take a few moments to talk to you about the sinking fund proposal that you will find on the November 6, 2018 ballot. For those of you who watched this video before the last election, you'll find that much of the information is repetitive, although we have included a list of specific projects that we'll complete with sinking fund monies if the proposal passes in November. By way of introduction, the school district maintains quite a bit of space. We have 400,000 square feet in the 5 school buildings that we currently operate, and in addition to that we maintain multiple athletic sites and we have bus and maintenance sites. Our buildings, as you know, are getting a little older. The average age is 57 years, and our newest building, which is Webster, was built in 1991. This presents some unique challenges for the district. Our buildings continue to age. Security simply wasn't as big a concern when they were constructed as it is now. And so in order to make those security improvements and secure our entrances and keep our students safe, it's going to require some fairly expensive retrofitting. As buildings age, they also need regular repair, upgrading, and modernization. And so we want to make sure our students and staff can use up-to-date technology. We know that equipment, even when we maintain it, exhausts its useful lifespan or becomes obsolete. Boilers and lights are a good example of this. At Sioux Hill last year we replaced older boilers with high efficiency boilers, and in the gym, thanks to the generosity of our fan club, we replaced the old lights with LED lights. And with the money that we save because of the energy efficiency in those products, they will eventually pay for themselves over their lifespan, which is nice, but we have to make the investment of purchasing them before we can take advantage of that. Then you have the unexpected repair expenses, and so you have leaks on out-of-warranty roofs. An example of that would be the windstorm damage that was done to the roof over the auditorium at the upper elementary. If you drive by, you'll see that there are trucks out there as they put the new roof on the auditorium. It's important to note that insurance doesn't typically pay the replacement cost for this because those roofs are out of warranty and we can't take advantage of that. We usually get a depreciated cost, and so it doesn't come anywhere close to covering the cost of replacement. And the auditorium roof is far from the only roof we have that's leaking, that's out of warranty, and that will require replacement, and that's going to come at significant cost to the district. We had some mold remediation that we did in the Igloo locker room last year, and I've already mentioned the boilers at Sioux Hill that we were able to replace with high efficiency boilers. Let's talk a little bit about funding. We invest in the school buildings, and the community invested in the school buildings in 2001 and 2010 when bonds were passed. The funds from these bonds were spent on specific projects, and once that money is expended, that's it. There's no money left over to cover any additional repairs or things like that that need to be made. And I think it's important to keep in mind too that 2001, as much as I hate to think about it, is a fairly long time ago. And so when we talk about repairs or retrofitting here at the upper elementary, people often ask, well, what about the bond monies that were passed in 2001? And those were expended now almost 18 years ago. In fact, by the time we do some of the repairs on the upper elementary, if the sinking fund passes, it will have been 20 years since that bond was passed, and so the building has aged significantly in that time. Another thing I'd like to note is that we've tried to be responsible with the bond debt, and so when interest rates have become advantageous, we've refinanced that bond debt, and in the course of refinancing, we've saved taxpayers about $2.5 million. Now, people often ask me, well, why doesn't state funding cover the repairs and modernization that you need to do? Well, school funding in Michigan hasn't grown as quickly as it has in the rest of the nation. In fact, it's grown at almost the slowest rate in the nation. And when you look at the funding we receive today, our funding has actually decreased by about 7% when it's adjusted for inflation. And then folks often ask me, well, what about the lottery? I see these commercials on TV that talk about the hundreds of millions of dollars that the lottery contributes to education every year. If you look at the amount of money that the lottery contributes, it really only makes up about 6.3% of the entire school aid fund, or less than $500 per student. And if you look at how the lottery has been used over time, the amount of the proceeds from the lottery that are actually going to education have been reduced from 40% to 29%. And then what really makes matters worse is that the state uses the lottery monies to simply replace other state funding. So we don't get those lottery monies in addition to the state funding we normally receive. And as a result, none of our state funding increases because of lottery funds. I know that's probably not what people have been led to think, but unfortunately that's the truth. Now the district, using the limited funds that we have, prioritizes funding from the state towards instruction and programs and activities that directly benefit students, which means that because our resources have shrunk, we have had to put off some of the maintenance and the repair that we would normally do, because if we do it now, we're going to do it at the cost of instruction and student programs. And so one way to get around this is to use a sinking fund. You can think of a sinking fund as a pay-as-you-go type system. It's a millage that's levied to support school safety improvements, technology improvements, and the repair of school buildings. We call it a pay-as-you-go system because it doesn't require borrowing money or paying interest like bonds do. And one of the things it does for us is that it allows us to preserve money we receive from the state to continue to support instruction and programs and activities that directly benefit students. One other interesting thing about sinking funds is that it lets residents invest directly in the school system because it keeps those tax revenues local. Most of the tax revenues that are paid by our communities go to the state, and then the state redistributes those. That's not the case with sinking funds. Those monies are generated locally and they stay local. There are also some very specific rules for sinking funds. And so with voter approval, districts can levy up to 3 mills for up to 10 years. That's not actually what we're asking for, but that's what the law allows districts to request if they'd like. You can think of that as the maximum limit. Sinking fund monies have to be kept separate from other district monies, so we can't mingle sinking fund monies with general fund monies. And then sinking funds have to receive an independent audit every year to ensure that we remain in compliance with the law, and that audit is filed with the state. So what's allowed when it comes to sinking funds? You can make school security improvements, you can make school technology improvements, you can repair things, and you can build things. You can engage in construction. We asked about construction because sometimes folks get the impression that when you engage in construction, you're building new buildings. And according to the state, if you are retrofitting a building or you're making changes to the interior of an existing building, that constitutes construction. So I don't want folks to think about construction in terms of building new buildings. Construction is work that we would be doing in our existing buildings. Now there are lots of things that aren't allowed with sinking fund monies. So we can't pay employee salaries with sinking fund monies. In fact, if we're going to do work using sinking fund monies, we have to contract for that work. We can't do regular or routine maintenance, so we couldn't go out and buy 5 years worth of light bulbs and keep them in stock and just use them to replace bulbs as they burn out. Regular routine maintenance isn't covered with sinking funds. We can't purchase teaching supplies with sinking funds. Along those lines, we can't purchase textbooks, and we can't purchase things like buses either. So what's the district asking for? On November 6, 2018, the district will ask voters to consider a sinking fund levy of 1.8 mills for a period of 4 years. Now that's different from what we asked for in May, when we asked for a levy of 2.2 mills for a period of 5 years. And we still have plenty of projects we need to complete, but the voter feedback we got was that 2.2 mills was just too much. And so what we've done is we've gone back and we've prioritized the most necessary projects. And as we've looked at that list, even though it isn't everything we'd like to do, we can take our request down to 1.8 mills for a period of 4 years if we simply prioritize the most necessary projects. And so that's why we've changed what we're asking this time around. Now what does it mean for you? So a rate of 1.8 mills equates to about $1.80 per thousand of taxable value. Now, when we talk about taxable value, we're not talking about the actual appraised value of the home. The taxable value of a home is usually half of the appraised value. So that $1.80 isn't levied against the appraised value, it's levied against the taxable value. So if you look at the average home in Escanaba, it has an appraised value of about $88,000. That means that its taxable value is $44,000, and so at 1.8 mils that would equate to a yearly cost of $79.20. That breaks down to a monthly cost of $6.60 or a daily cost of 22 cents. If your home is appraised at more or less than that, and your taxable value as a result is more or less than that, then you will see your rates adjust accordingly. But what we're hoping is, given what we want to accomplish, our community will find that 1.8 mils is a fairly reasonable request from the district. So how do we prepare for all this? Well, last year, in 2017, we formed a sinking fund exploratory committee that was made up of about 20 people, and that included teachers, administrators, community members, and parents. And this group met 6 times from November 2017 to January 2018 to take a look at all of our school facilities, study our needs, and create a list of potential projects. Then we got cost estimates. We studied through those cost estimates and we developed a recommendation for the board. In January 2018, that recommendation was to pursue a sinking fund of 2 to 2.2 mils for a period of 5 to 7 years, and we put that on the May 8th, 2018 ballot. Now, when that proposal was voted down, we reconvened the facilities committee and we identified the most necessary projects to complete over the next 4 years. And as a result of that work, the new recommendation to the board was to request from the voters approval for a sinking fund of 1.8 mils over a period of 4 years. The board approved that in August 2018, and as a result, it's been placed on the November 6, 2018 ballot. Now, what will we do? Well, the short answer is that we will use sinking fund monies for those things that sinking fund monies can be spent on. And that pretty much means school security improvements, technology improvements, and repairing and upgrading our building sites. People asked us, no, what are the more specific things that you're going to do? And so we have prepared a list of those things for you. So this is the list of specific projects that we'll complete during the first year of the sinking fund, if it's passed. Now, if we pass a sinking fund of 1.8 mils, we can expect that it will generate about $990,000 in funds each year. And so we took a look at our project. Year one, we wanted to make sure that we covered safety. And so you'll see on this list that quite a few of the items deal with safety. In fact, pretty much all the safety items are on the year one list. There are a few facility things, so for example, updating the Sioux Hill restrooms or dealing with some blacktop on the Webster Playground area. But for the most part, we're really trying to focus on security in year one because, as you know, if you've watched the news, it's just more and more urgent that we do everything we can to upgrade our buildings and keep students safe. As we get on to year two, we run into more of the maintenance, repair, and upgrade issues. And so you'll see on this list a lot of things that deal with facilities. And I'd point out just a few of these because people ask me from time to time, hey, don't you guys have emergency savings? Well, the answer to that is yes. The state requires us to keep at least a 5% fund balance. For the school district, that equates to a little over $1 million. And if we don't keep that balance, then the state comes in and they start to regulate our operations and our finances and those kinds of things. Well, if you look at this list, one of the complaints I get really often is, why don't you do something with that west parking lot at the high school? If you've driven through it, it looks a lot like a minefield. You're driving around potholes, some of which are really big. We could try to repair those, and if we do, we all know what's going to happen after that. They're going to come right back up after the rain falls. And so really what needs to happen is that parking lot needs to be redone. Now, if you take a look at that, regrading, sealing, striping, and extending it towards the track to give us more parking space is going to run about $344,000. If we used our emergency funds for this type of repair, that alone would take about a third of our emergency funds. We would fall below the level the state requires us to have, and then they would start coming in to intervene. So unfortunately, we don't have the reserve funds to do most of these repairs. In fact, we would exhaust our entire reserve fund in about a year if we did that. Hence, one of the reasons why we're asking for the sinking fund monies. But as you look at this list, you'll see that year 2 is focusing quite a bit on building facility type issues. I guess the last thing I'd point out here is you'll see that we've got replacing the bleacher system in the gym. That bleacher system is about 60 years old. Thanks to the goodness of our fan club, if you go into that gym, we have a very, very nice new floor. The bleacher system isn't ADA accessible, and on top of that, because it's so old, when we roll it out, the rollers damage the floor, and we want to make sure we don't damage that new gym floor. And so we've got things like replacing the bleacher system, which is going to help us take care of something very nice that the fan club did for us that I hope our community is able to come in and enjoy. So we're really also trying to take care of the things we have using the sinking fund monies. Year 3, you'll see there are more facility things here in year 3, and these are again very expensive facility things. Take a look at repairing or actually replacing the upper elementary gym and cafeteria roof. It's a big roof. It covers a lot of space. Some of it's difficult to get to, and the price tag on that is $438,000. But that roof is out of warranty. It's leaking like many of the other roofs that you see on these lists, and it's going to have to be taken care of. And again, that's a hefty price tag, and a sinking fund will allow us to do that and to take care of a building that the community invested quite a bit of funding in 2001. And then we get to year 4, which again is more building facility type issues. You'll notice that asbestos occurs a lot in this list, and I don't want to scare anybody by using that term, but many of the tiles in our school buildings, because they're so old, are asbestos tiles. And asbestos tiles are okay as long as they don't come up, but after all these years and after all this use, we're starting to have to replace some of these tiles. Well, as we do that, of course, then the asbestos tiles have to come up, or they're coming up, and then we have to replace them. We'd like to just simply get them all out of our buildings, and that comes at fairly expensive cost. So if you look at the high school and the junior high school, there is still quite a bit of asbestos tile in there. The amount of the last bond would not cover removing those tiles, and so they weren't removed. And we feel like we need to get them out now. And so you'll see there's a $215,000 price tag just associated with that. But it's important to us to get those asbestos tiles out of our buildings once and for all, and not to have to worry about them at all anymore. So hopefully that list of projects helps a little bit. Some of the feedback we got from people was, we really want the specifics. We want to know what this money is going to be spent on if we commit to giving it, and so we're happy to provide that information now. The vote, as I've mentioned several times, will take place during the general election on November 6, 2018. We encourage you all to participate, and we want you to know that our proposal appears on the back of the ballot, and so make sure you turn that ballot over in order to vote. If you'd like more information, you can visit our website at eskimos.com. We have the list of projects posted up on that website. We've also got some general information and FAQ that we update as regularly as we get questions. We've got a flyer. We have a few other resources there too if you'd like to take a look at them. You can visit us on Facebook, or you can also email us, sinkingfund@eskimos.com. Or finally, you can give us a call at 906-786-5411, and I am happy to talk to anybody who wants to chat and to answer any questions that you may have. So I hope you found this helpful, and again, we encourage you to vote on November 6th. Thank you.